using Zoom or Teams?
Teams. We're using Teams. Apparently, we're tapping into the Westborough.
All right, is that going to get launched so that, all right, where will we, but you're going to join it too, right?
Yes, so I'm in there, but it's going to be.
Okay, just so we'll see, will we see? Sit there. Since we have some people joining online potentially, I want to go ahead and start on time. David, do we have any other members online?
Nothing yet.
No, okay. But we have a quorum here, which is wonderful. So let's just see who's coming through the door.
I was
Good to go?
Yeah.
So welcome, everyone, this to the Monday, June 9th meeting of the Community Preservation Committee. If you'd give me a moment, I do need to just quickly read the notice for this being held remotely as well. This meeting may be recorded for minute-taking purposes and pursuant to Chapter 2 of the Acts of 2023. This meeting will be conducted in person and via remote means in accordance with applicable law. This means that members of the public body as well as members of the public may access this meeting in person or via virtual means. In-person attendance will be at the Forbes Municipal Building, Great Hall, in Westborough, Mass. At 5 p.m. And it is possible that all members of the public body may attend remotely with in-person attendance consisting of members of the public. This meeting may be accessed remotely via Teams link. Additionally, the meeting will be broadcast live in real time via Verizon Channel 28 and Charter Channel 192, or via Westborough's TV online platform at westboroughTV.org and youtube.com/Westborough TV. I'm not going to read the link. It's all right. And also, when required by law or allowed by the chair, persons wishing to provide public comment or otherwise participate in the meeting may do so by in-person attendance only or by accessing the meeting remotely as noted above. All right. So we will open the meeting, and I would like a vote from the board initially to open the public forum. Mark Silverberg.
I'll move to, oh, you just want to?
No, I just, yeah.
Silverberg, yes.
Christina? Yes. Marjorie? I want to actually read them all out since we're doing it online. Julie O'Neill Welch?
Yes.
Christina Allen?
Yes.
Marjorie Pierce?
Yes.
James Ball, yes. All right, so we're going to start with the presentation for those of you here and those online. The committee, this shows the members of the committee. It's a 9-member body. 7 of the members are representatives of other boards in town and committees. Yes.
Do we have somebody attending remotely?
We do now?
Daniel's in.
Oh, I'm sorry, so Daniel joined. Yes.
Before the voter?
Did he join before that vote?
I just didn't know if we needed his vote.
I would ask Daniel to vote as well,
I'm sorry.
if I may.
Sorry to interrupt.
Yep, no, I appreciate that. Daniel Berger, and can you ask him, can you hear him? Daniel, can you unmute and just give us a thumbs up or a yes to open the meeting? The forum, excuse me. All right, we have a quorum vote, so I'm going to go with it.
All right.
No, I
Sorry.
appreciate that, Mark, because I'm glad to know that he's attending. Basically, the CPA was signed into law by the state in September of 2000, and it allows cities and towns to create a community preservation fund and allows them to place a levy on the real estate tax up to 3%. In 2022 spring, Westborough did adopt the CPA at town meeting, and we began with a 0.5% surcharge that was first charged in fiscal year of 2024. The proceeds of the funds are collected and they are deposited into 3 reserve funds for historical sites, open space and recreation, and to create affordable housing. The purpose and the allocation, as you can see, is to acquire, create, preserve, or rehab assets in those 3 categories. We must spend or reserve a minimum of 10% per year for each of the categories. The remainder can be put in a general fund that can be used for any of them, and also up to 5% of the fees collected can be put and used for administrative expenses. We have an administrative assistant, David Fleury, is over here at the end, and then any other administrative bills that we have can be funded from that 5%. And as I said, the remaining funds can be appropriated to any of those areas and is held in an undesignated reserve account. This box, and you will see this, there is a link online at the preservation website under the Town of Westborough website to our new preservation plan, which we will be voting on to approve tonight. You will see this chart in there, and this will be important for anyone that is considering an application. This identifies under each of those areas what is available. So for acquisition, as we mentioned, all 4 areas allow for the acquisition. For creating, obviously you can't create a new historical property, so that would be a no. Otherwise, open space, acquiring open space, recreation and housing, yes. Preserving is yes. And then support, it depends. We can't support existing open space unless it was acquired with CPC funds, and the same thing. Historical's interesting. There's a difference between preserving and maintenance, and there's some detail there in the law, which you can see in the event you were to read it. And then at the end, again, we can rehab and restore open space if it was acquired or created with CPA funds. Historical and recreation, and yes, acquired with CPA funds again for housing. All right, so that chart is in the plan. So projects are evaluated on the CPA goals. Again, the CPA plan goes through the various committees in town and that have an impact on our different areas, and there's a lot of narrative on the goals. It comes from the master plan. It comes from actually Open Space is, I think, just finishing an updated, or about to finish an updated plan of theirs any moment now, I hope. And so we carefully considered all those, and indeed going forward when looking to approve plans, we'll also take those things into account. There is an emphasis on achieving plans or funding things that have broad public benefit and support as we're able. There will be a 2-stage process. So there's a pre-application, and this is a very simple application that is really designed to save time and money on people's part that are applying, to make sure that it does align with one of the eligible actions in the chart that I showed you on the prior page. And then if the committee reviews that and approves indeed that it is an eligible request, we will then ask for the detailed full application. Again, those are also available at the link under the CPC committee under the town. And that requests for a lot more narrative, documents, maps, budget, feasibility, all those type of things that the committee will need to make prudent decisions. All right. We will then be having public hearings to review and discuss the applications. And ultimately, we make recommendations to town meeting of those that we think are worth funding, and the town at town meeting votes for those to be approved or not. The town can reduce those. They cannot increase or change. The recommendations can only come to the town meeting through this. Again, these were some of the goals under historic resource, obviously to preserve historically significant structures and sites in Westborough. Eligible projects do need to be listed on the state register, or they are deemed locally significant by our historical committee. They must meet federal preservation standards, and we can, oftentimes what's happening with historical properties is adaptive reuse and creating public access if it didn't previously exist. These are some goals, and again, these are being updated as we speak, for open space and recreation, protecting land and the water supply, biodiversity, scenic views, and agricultural use, some priority given to areas of environmental risk, using conservation risk restrictions to ensure permanent protection. In fact, those we're required to apply those in any open space we would acquire, and those are permanent. And then we're working with the land trusts and state agencies that often are, frankly, they often are aware of those things coming up prior to us. And they have a lot of expertise in maintaining them and caring for them. In recreation, again, improving access, amenities, and ADA compliance where appropriate. Supporting active and passive recreation, both can be done through the CPC. Trying to expand town-wide trail systems and recreational land in addition to what's already really quite significant in the town, which is terrific. Prohibited is routine maintenance and operational costs. We cannot fund artificial turf or gymnasiums and stadiums, buildings generally, and private or non-public projects. For affordable housing, interestingly, low-income housing is households earning 80% of the area income, and moderate income housing is for households earning 100% of the area median income. I didn't bring my notes from the select board, but I remember off the top of my head for a four-family, the median income number in Westborough is 122,000 and change. Those come through and were just published and are available through the public through, I think, Housing and Urban Development, if I recall. And so those both can be funded through CPC. However, to qualify for the town's 10% goal of subsidized housing inventory, that has to be at the 80% number. All right. So clearly the goals are to support development and preservation of housing for low and moderate income households. A couple of key objectives: create diverse housing options, families, seniors, and individuals. There's a need for all of those in town. Ideally, we'd like to ensure that the units are eligible for that subsidized housing inventory, which is a 10% level. We're at 11.67, as you can see on here right now, but some of those come off over time, so we want to continually try to replenish those. And then again, if we're able to encourage equitable distribution across town, and certainly the Housing Trust and those committees can give you lots more insight on those goals. So this is just quickly talking about what our expectations are for the remainder of this year. The pre-application process would be in August and September, which would be to submit that initial summary of the project that I referenced. And we'll review if indeed they're eligible under those categories and ask for any early feedback and guidance that you'll get from us, and again, in return from any applicants. If we do indeed agree that it is an eligible project, we will ask for that full application That will be due by October 1st. They'll require a cover page, a detailed description, budgets, maps, photos, et cetera, depending on the type of project, obviously. Some of those may or may not apply. Timeline's important, feasibility. We want to know these things can get done. We want to have, extreme confidence that they'll be completed. We'd like to have a lot of broad community support. And again, the evaluation criteria is listed out in the plan and indeed in the application. One original, 9 paper copies, and 1 PDF. After that, we will be holding our meetings in the fall, well, really late fall, early winter, to review those, gather any public comment. These will be public meetings. We will again evaluate based on the public benefit. Do they align with the various plans in town that people have put an awful lot of effort and time into? Again, feasibility. We want to be sure they're doable and they'll be accomplished in a timely fashion and that they'll have a meaningful community impact. All right. In the event that some of those, we come to that conclusion, we will indeed be at the Springtown meeting and we will make recommendations of projects that we believe make sense for the town to vote in warrant articles at the town meeting. And the town will vote to either approve or reject those. All right. On the assumption they approve, we will create award letters and we will implement with the grants. They have to follow procurement laws. Funds are reimbursed after work is done and completed and documented. And generally, the projects have to be finished within 24 months, ideally even sooner. But if there's an exception to that, with reasonable circumstances, we'll consider it, but ideally the 24 months. We took out with the slide, that's right, sorry. We changed the slide numbers, but we didn't change it on the bottom. So that's the information as we have it. Again, there is a link to the full plan on the website through the town to the CPC. There's also an information email there for anybody seeking further comment. But at this time, any questions from members who are attending here? Very, very clear. Looks like I was clear. Any questions from any of us up here? I think most of you have been listening to this for many months now, so you have a pretty good sense of what's happening. All right, well, go ahead, Bill. If you would just, I'm sorry, I was pointing to this gentleman who snuck up behind you. Right here? That would be phenomenal. Just name it.
Bill Lenane.
Yep.
I'm apologetic for my community, your community, that there aren't more people here. You've done a lot of good work, the two of you and all of those associated with it. What more can people like myself do to get the community more involved and understand all the work that you've put into this so that they understand what will be provided in the future? I don't need an answer right now, but I think if some of us in the community can help do that, we want to help. So.
I appreciate that. I think it's a great question. We all think about that. I think a lot of the various committees, because what ideally happens is people discuss these things in these early meetings rather than we get to town meeting and then people have big questions, because we'd like to come to town meeting with people informed. So I need to think about that because we've tried many ways to get the word out. People are busy, but these things are important, and there's meaningful capital here to be deployed in a way that hopefully impacts a lot of people positively.
Well, it has. You've done a lot of work, and I think some of us took it for granted when this first came up, that many members here spent a lot of time getting it. And I, like you, don't want to wait till town meeting and have information come out. But there's a few organizations I belong to, Westborough Connect, Civic Club, et cetera, that if we can package something and send it out to them, that they can distribute to members ahead of time.
All right.
In some cases, the summit's here and they're not as active as they would be, but I think if we can reach out to various groups and spread the word, let us know and we'll help. So.
I appreciate that, Bill. Go ahead, Mark.
Bill? Hey, Bill. This is being recorded, so even if you just encourage people to watch the presentation on Westborough TV, that I think will help give
point.
people a foundation.
And I'm out of bounds, okay? But one of the reasons we don't get people here because of the acoustics here. And you as a select person, we need to work on that. And there's Westborough TV member who has some ideas, and I think we need to do that. This is a beautiful building. I happen to went to high school here, not telling my age, but I
wasn't
think
far
we
behind you.
really need to encourage people to, or to get people to come here. We've got to get rid of this reverberation.
Yeah, that's
it's out of bounds, but it's a time to share.
We've heard that for a long time on planning board and everything else, Bill, but I agree.
Thank you, Bill. Another comment? Please.
Could you say
Your
name?
name, if you would.
Judith Tully.
Thanks, Judy.
Could you say more about when a recommendation goes to town meeting? And some of it, I'm agreeing with Bill, I couldn't hear exactly what you were saying. If the town meeting votes to reject the proposal, they can do that.
They can.
And they can also reduce the amount of money that's being.
Correct.
Okay, so then what happens?
That's it. So they can amend it to reduce. They can't increase it or change. They can't bring a new project. It could only be brought from the committee here. So if it is rejected and voted down, that project is not going to happen. So
And
that, so
it
the
can't come
funds.
back.
So our funds, the funds will not have been distributed yet until after, something is approved. So the funds will remain in the reserve account, and we will start again looking for new opportunities and new requests.
So an opportunity cannot be, a project cannot be brought back to town meeting?
I don't know the answer. I would think it could. Yes, I would
Good.
think it
Okay.
could be brought back.
Okay.
I would hope with further clarifications or perhaps addressing what people were not clear about. Part of our job, obviously, is to try to get all that information so that we're presenting it well. But in that case, yes, it could come back.
Okay, good, thank you.
Judith?
It would be another year. Go ahead, Mark.
I think, at least with zoning articles, and I'm not sure about every article, but I think there's a time frame where you can't bring the identical article back. But I
Okay,
think it
so
could be varied.
it could be worked on based
Yes.
on the feedback. Okay, thank you.
But ideally, we get as much feedback and give as much feedback in advance as we can to create success, ideally. Which, to Bill's point, if we have a lot of participation, hopefully that was more likely to happen.
Jim, I had a couple of comments based on the two questions, if you don't mind. So I think on the first question about getting the community involved more, I think being a more, this is our first public session, right? This is like the fruition of a lot of work. What we haven't discussed is what that looks like moving forward. I think it's a great call out. I worked with David, for example, on getting this posted to the town Facebook, but I think there's also, how are we working with the Economic Development Committee? How are we working internally with other, town entities in addition to the groups that you mentioned to do that? And I think we all know we have to probably do more of that now that it's live. I also wonder when we think about the question to what happens if they're rejected at town meeting. I wonder if as a committee, if we talk about what is our communication process for those projects. So once we have the projects, so that people don't feel like they've never heard about it when we get to town meeting, and thinking about whether it's public forums or PowerPoints shared or something, but how are we thinking about kind of sharing that ahead of time so people feel like they have adequate information and time to think about it? Because hopefully we have many to choose from, right? That would be ideal.
Great comments. Other comments from the board? Tina?
Chris Allen. I agree with Bill in that there are many different clubs in town that have specific projects that would qualify, I believe. For instance, under open space, there are trails and development of parks or different kinds of recreation. And maybe we could go through and emphasize those projects that CPA can fund, and they're listed in our particular plan, and get those out to the clubs that would be affected and interested in applying to those. If it's general, often clubs might say, oh, well, we don't have a project that might qualify for CPA. But there are specific ones, for instance, the Open Space Committee or Westborough Community Land Trust, for instance, does have projects that fall under open space. And there are others, historic projects that perhaps the Historical Commission or the Historical Society or others, Cultural Council, cultural public benefits, specific things that would fall under CPA would be, I think, the easiest and most practical way of getting people interested.
I agreed. And I think, certainly the members of the committee that represent all those, to get the word back again, I think we've tried to communicate it to all of them, in particular for this session, is that we're open for business, or shortly will be, I hope. And so, excellent points. Bill, another comment?
Just a follow-up to what the three of you said. I hate to ask you to have another session, but actually invite each one of these clubs to have a member and a member that then they can spend and maybe have a handout they bring back to their committee and club. One more session would expand it a little bit. And more than a flyer, but not 10 pages, but points out the key points in here that you want to get across, that when they go back to their associations, that they have something in an email that they can follow up. We need to spend more in the community. You people do great work, including the selectmen, et cetera, but we're not reaching the community. Westborough TV is great, Facebook is great, but we're not getting to the meat of the people to get the feedback. And I think maybe that's an avenue of getting to it, so.
Okay.
Just going to make a comment. I know that we've put a lot of work into the plan. We've reviewed it and reviewed it and reviewed it and edited it. I feel that now we're at the point that we can now, decide if we're going to vote on it. I think once we have the plan in place, definitely pushing it out as the plan, it's been vetted, it's been approved, and then being able to push it out and have comments available to come back of just how to move forward and getting the word out and really counting on more of the public. And you're right, the clubs and the connections, the Facebook pages, I think is really important. So I think when we do have that vote, we also now have done the work to put it out.
I think it's great. That's the key, is if we we'd like to vote on the plan so it's official. And then we can think very creatively and robustly about how to communicate to folks in all the different groups in town that this is now for real. And David's available at all time. I'm happy to speak to anybody about this. I would like more information on it. And I think most anyone on the committee feels the same way. So we will make sure prior to being opened for those applications in August, September, that we have worked hard to get the word out, Bill. Go ahead.
I'm David Buffo. I'm just curious, do we know how big a pot of money we're talking about? And if it appears we're sort of putting the word out to kind of solicit proposals effectively.
Yes.
Is there any guidance about how big or small those project proposals should be from a budget standpoint?
Well, they have to be within what's in the fund, so that would be the top limit. Now, one thing, and you bring up a good point, just to answer your first question, roughly, without the interest through today, because they are deposited in interest-bearing accounts, about $1.2 million. And that is, we work with estimates from what the state's match is, which we don't know fully until the fall, but that's going to be close. So far, year to date, they're running a bit ahead, because the state's match is based on actual transactions occurring at the registry, and they were slow, but they had a good April. And so we'll see how that ends up. But roughly, that's the amount. And any size, is acceptable. Go ahead, Mark.
Can you repeat that? I just think somebody.
Yeah, I was
didn't hear
having a
that.
hard time hearing. Did you say 1.2 million?
Repeat the amount.
1.2 million, roughly, in the fund. And it's, as the tax rates are going up, how much we're raising, I will tell you for fiscal '26, $522,000. I'm sorry, for '25. No, that's right, '26. I always get these fiscal years mixed up. The amount, so we started in the high 300s, 4 and 24 and 25, excuse me, and about 522,000 was the year for the year of fiscal '26. And so, that will continue, I suspect, growing. And so in terms of size, I mean, the key is we want it to be impactful, but that doesn't mean there can't be a smaller project that can be impactful. So we'd ask people to get creative, but that will be a big consideration for us. If we have, if we have multiple requests, we're certainly going to look at what's got the biggest public benefit and most impactful. My hope is we can, I'd like to fund them all, but I'd like to have more requests than we have funds so that we can really make some thoughtful decisions and have a big impact. But there is no size limit other than the funding available. I will say we often, and I didn't mention, and I should have, the CPC Coalition in the state. They have a wonderful website, a lot of resources that is referenced in our plan. A lot of times these are done with other grants and other funds. And so monies are put together collectively through multiple resources to do more impactful things. So that is often the case, that this isn't the only money that's going into any given project. So that money can be leveraged to do something even bigger and better, hopefully.
Okay, yeah, great point.
Mark, go ahead.
I'm sorry to keep adding things, David. Just to realize there are a lot of rules about how we can spend that money. So just because somebody comes forward with a great idea and we can't go forward with it, doesn't mean we don't want to all the time. It means that the law that created CPA funds, or the Community Preservation Act that created the CPA fund, is very specific. So I would rather have 20 requests and sort through and help people figure out if they actually even qualify. And I'm going to let Jim make all those decisions because he knows those rules better than I do.
And I would again allude, that coalition website, it has a long history of there's, I think, the 201st town, I can't remember the name of the town, it's a town out west, was just approved CPC. And so they do a very good job of listing all the historical projects that the majority of these towns have approved over the prior years. And so it's a wonderful way to look at it and say, oh, here's, I've been reading through it and say, I would have never thought of that. Many times, in fact. And I've gone through already over 100 of them. And so that is a great way to get a sense of what is feasible and what isn't. Again, I would stress that website's a great resource. But those 4 areas, to Mark's point, are the areas that we can fund within, and very specifically with certain rules within them. But it's a fairly broad swath, actually, in terms of what can fall into those categories.
Jim, I can add that you can really, the matrix that was put up of what we can pull from that checkbox is really like a powerful thing to seeing what will fall in line for being able to be funded. And the plan definitely, goes through it, but definitely us and the coalition will help answer any questions. We don't want to waste people's time, but we do want to have, they have to follow the guidelines. So we have have tried to break it down so when they look at it, we'll know whether it falls in or doesn't fall in.
Also, in the actual plan on page 7, there are 3 paragraphs that talk about how CPA funds may be used with illustrations, and then going to the links and the pages of the Mass Coalition with lots of examples that have been done, even in surrounding towns that may be applicable here.
To Chris's point, that, the document's over 30 pages. I didn't want to read it to all of you. And so, but it is very specific in much more, it has very specific definitions under each of the categories as to what really is applicable or not. And I think that's a big help.
Okay, great. So it sounds like in that August, September time period, we can start to formulate ideas, work with other organizations, maybe other town bodies to figure out the best package that
Yes.
might make a good application. That's
Yes.
the intent of that step one.
That is correct.
Okay, super, thanks.
Judith Tully again.
Yes, Judith.
I just would like to respond, when you're talking about all of the towns that have this in place and have had projects funded and have been successful, I know there are reports, I know that there are links, I know that there's history. One of the things that is trying for me is that people really do need to be spoon-fed. And referring them to, I'm not criticizing, I'm just saying, referring them to a link or to a report, or I would suggest that you look at projects that have been successful in various scopes and amounts of funding and make that information public. Because when you're talking about being creative, not everybody is, and we'll end up at town meeting with, I've never heard of this, what is this? But when people can say, wow, look what happened look what they did in Wellesley, or look what they did somewhere else, Northampton, wherever, then people can get excited about the possibilities. They can see that it really can come to fruition and benefit a community. So that's just my input. I think having concrete examples of how this can be utilized and best utilized would be helpful.
Okay. I think what we can do is work on a way that those examples on the coalition website are probably the most diverse and robust. So if we can work on a way to really make getting to that very functionally easy, because as a board, we can't make recommendations to the town and say, we think you should do X, Y, or Z. And so we can get across that it's available, and we are going to work to everyone's point to make sure that people understand that now. We do have representatives here from every committee in town that is, who I suspect some of them are already thinking about different ways to use this capital. I'm quite sure, because I've heard from several. And so again, I think we want to express to each of them to talk to everyone they know as well about, hey, this is happening now. Here's things we're thinking about. But I appreciate those comments, and we'll work on that.
Well, and interested, I'm sorry, I can't get up with you.
Okay, I can hear you.
Interested parties, people who have ideas for submissions, they need to be reminded that they can go to another community and talk to the people in that community. We don't have to reinvent the wheel.
Yes.
And that's.
We're certainly going to do that. I've already done it.
I think the committee has done fabulous work, let me say that. But allowing people to know where these projects are and let them see and talk to the people who have done it, I think that's important.
Excellent comment.
Sometimes we're just talking to other people in Westborough.
Starts to generate ideas. Well, yes, when you talk to others that have actually used it, that's where you start to go, oh, wow, that's an interesting, I can see where we could apply that in this town, in our town, so excellent points. Any other comments or points? Questions? I do appreciate all of you coming and the feedback. And again, this will, for anyone who, let people know it will be available on Westborough TV, and they were gracious to get here and record this for us so people can, hopefully that's another way that people can become aware. All right. So then in that instance, I would ask the committee for a vote to close the forum, or a motion, I should say.
I'll make a motion to close the forum.
Second?
Second.
All right, I'm going to go through a roll call again. Marjorie Pierce.
Yes.
Yes, you said that so quickly, I was like, wasn't ready. Chris Allen,
Yes.
Julia Welch,
Yes.
Christina Kelleher,
Yes.
Mark Silverberg,
Yes.
Daniel Berger online. Am I going to get the yes, the thumbs up? Right? Yes, okay, and then James Wall, I'm going to say yes.
And Colleen did add.
Oh, I'm sorry, I'm calling, and Colleen Dad. And thank you, everyone, very much. Appreciate your time, and please reach out to us with any further questions, all right? So we will continue our regular business. And I don't know, you're welcome to stay if you like, you don't need to stay. First of all, I think you handed out and provided David a copy. You can sit wherever you'd like. All right. For the April meeting minutes were handed to any questions on those minutes?
I just had one.
Go ahead.
Just in reference to Stewart and Chase, were those the two representatives, or is it called Stewart and Chase?
They're the two reps from the coalition.
Okay, I just think we need like last names.
Okay.
probably in there.
I agree with that. We'll amend those to add their
I
full
didn't know if it was
names.
people or like a consultancy.
Yeah, that is
was this-
the
wait a minute.
that is the CEO and his second in charge at the coalition.
It was very.
Good catch. All right, so I would ask for a motion to approve those minutes.
Motion to approve the minutes of Monday, April 7th.
Second it.
All right. Do I still have to do?
People online, so you have to do
Yes,
a
I
roll
should.
call.
Okay.
Anybody anytime there's anything
All right,
online.
Marjorie Pierce again.
Yes.
Approval, yes. Thank you, Christine Allen.
Yes.
We have Daniel Berger online. I'm gonna,
Having interference.
okay, all right. Julia Welch,
Yes.
Christina Kelleher,
Yes.
Maureen Dowd. Mark Silverberg.
I'll abstain, I wasn't here. Yeah.
That sounds good, and I will also vote yes for approval. All right, then, so the next big item here is to approve our final draft plan, which everyone has seen many times now. Mark, I think we'll need a few. Any questions or comments before we go ahead and do that?
I just think that maybe as a committee, we can work on that outreach piece.
Yes.
Maybe some of us can tag team the civic clubs, our connections, better present to the people on our committees, because obviously that's what we're hearing is people need to hear about what's going on.
I agree.
And I think once we do say we have money available, you know, we'll get some input and some acknowledgement from what's going on here. So I think maybe if we can all as a committee, take some ideas to who we can reach to, or even if we doubly reach to people, I think that's important. Maybe seeing when those meetings are going on in our community and taking a couple moments to get on their agenda and going and presenting to them.
Also, maybe the community advocate.
We could work
have a
on
piece in
that,
there,
as well as, I think, as Bill mentioned, a flyer, one page, really summarizing the fact that the community preservation plan hopefully has been accepted, and what it entails for those in the community, how it can be a public benefit, meaning this is how you can apply easily, the types of things you can apply for, general categories, and then maybe a few specifics. Make it very easy, but something that is very supportive of getting together, being creative, and coming in with ideas that can be funded.
Excellent. All right, I will want one more time on a vote then to approve the final plan draft. Marjorie Pierce,
Yes.
Chris Allen,
Yes.
Julia Welch,
Yes.
Christina Kelleher,
Yes.
Mark Silverberg.
Yes.
Are you, Maureen Dowd?
Yes.
I mean, yeah. And Jim Ball, yes. All right, so that's a majority. That's fantastic. I think, and then one last for the application, we should, I'm just going to think about that because that's attached to the plan. I don't know that we need a separate vote for that. I don't feel we do. That's part of the plan, so I'm not going to, I'm comfortable that that would be covered by that vote. And so really, it's just about upcoming meeting dates. I think in that we've approved this plan. Our thought was we won't need a July date, but we would like to have an August date so that we can begin to review preliminary applications, hopefully, if they come in. And so typically, we're that first Monday. Hard to believe we're almost halfway through June. August 4th or the 11th, it would be one.
No July meeting.
I'm sorry?
No July meeting?
I don't think we'll need a July meeting because we've approved this. And so we will spend July getting the word out.
What's the rule about how many people, were you anticipating that people could come to that meeting and talk to us?
Yes.
And so what's the rule around how many of us need to be at? I'm
Majority.
also thinking it does have to be majority.
Yeah.
It's like
Five.
a quorum.
Yes, we have
We
to have
have
a
to have
quorum for
quorum.
that. 9.
There's 9.
Sort of thinking like, could we do 2 sessions? Just to like give people 2 options.
Sure.
Also, I take vacation at the beginning of the month.
Well, I think August and September would both be for,
But we'd have enough time for those two.
for,
Okay.
for the
Maybe
pre-application.
picking a different day, just like some committees meet, like some people have set,
No question, there's a lot
Yeah.
of conflicts. It's tricky.
yeah, if we do the same night both times, you could.
Did we also, though, want to the question earlier, did we want to have one additional meeting soon with those, like not in August, but like in the next couple of weeks with those clubs and organizations?
I think it's not a bad idea.
Maybe a flip question is, how few people can be together and answer questions?
Well,
Can't have
go
a
ahead,
quorum.
Mark. I saw you.
Like,
So I mean, the key, we have to be careful about open meeting laws.
yeah, what's a meeting, what is it?
Well, more than 2. Yeah.
So we'd have to check on that, but theoretically, we could have 3 of us answer questions, we just can't discuss committee business. So 2 people could go to the Civic Club and answer questions, but they couldn't discuss with each other anything that would be related to committee business. So
Right.
They could make a presentation.
Yes. So
Compelling
my
presentation.
thought to your question, Christine, is rather than us trying to have another meeting and have all those people come because everyone's busy, if we make an effort over the next couple of months to have 1 or 2 of us go and present to them, if we can, think of any of them that would be valuable. Comment, Mark?
Well, so there's a lot of organizations.
I understand.
A lot of leagues, and so my fear is that we don't get to everyone, or that with 9 of us, we're looking at 5 meetings each or something crazy like that, and 5 presentations each. I would prefer that when we had the master plan committee, where we put together a pretty good list of all of these organizations. The contact people may be different, but we could do a reach out. I mean, the Civic Club probably has, I don't know how many members, the Rotary, if they could just send 1 representative, we could make extra handouts, but, maybe more than 1 if they want to come, but I just worry that we're talking about a 6-month process for this group to go out and reach out and attend all those meetings, as opposed to having 1 additional meeting where we get hopefully 90% representation from those groups. That's just my thought.
Well, I mean, in that case, I would say, a July meeting may make sense.
I think a July meeting might make sense, but probably not July 7th, which is the first
Yes.
Monday.
Yeah, I mean, with that July 4th, that's the July 4th weekend.
And don't get me wrong, I don't mind doing the outreach piece, I just think it's gonna take us longer. Maybe somebody presents, maybe somebody doesn't get on to the fall warrant, maybe they get on the spring warrant, right? I mean, that's not the end of the world.
I think we need to do, though, I think the heavy lifting needs to happen sooner rather than later.
Right.
I would say before mid-July, right? When you lose people to vacations, yeah.
And then not knowing about it.
Jim, did the master plan committee, or Mark mentioned, a master list that had all the committees or major clubs listed? I just think we should figure out what at least the top 10 are as far as members go and projects in the community. And perhaps we could go out to those particular committees and the other committees to invite to perhaps a couple of these subgroups that we're talking about to make presentations and to answer questions. But to hit the major ones that are most involved and have the most members might be a way of doing the one-to-one presentations.
So that would be in lieu of a July meeting, inviting people to come. To those,
They
the
or
larger
they could
groups.
come. We could go out at those that were not contacted by one of us. They would all, those that haven't been contacted would be invited to send a representative to our August meeting or whatever meeting the next one would be.
I think it's important that we have a face also, like, and you can have another public meeting and people can't make it, but if you can actually go and talk with people in a small group, like Christina says, some of the bigger groups that we might even be involved in, and try to encourage participation, really kind of gets that community sense. And a lot of times people are busy and they see another forum and they don't have time, but if we're going to something that they're already committed to, like their meeting, they're going to get that information. Now, it might not work for all of our groups. Mark's right. I only think of the bigger groups. I don't know all the ins and outs of all the little groups, but I just think that that's important, that sense of community, and that's kind of what we're representing by all being on this is our sense of community. And so I think we do need to do some of that outreach.
All right, you guys talked me into it. I'm done playing devil's advocate. I'm ready to go. Sign me up.
It's like doing both.
If we were to do that, and with a combination of really trying to advertise, I mean, we can even use, I believe, I'll check with Stuart, but our administrative to advertise a bit.
Well, I think if we
and
get a
some of
good
them-
flyer and we start pushing it out to them, and then we ask, like, it is going to be hard to necessarily market to those people, the different groups in the summer, because some of them do not meet, right? So that's going to be our hard sell, but if it were at least sending information and getting the information and asking them to distribute it to their group members, at least it's going to be familiar. Maybe it will be September before we actually are able to make it to a meeting, but at least if we're in the talks of kind of getting it planned, I think that we're just getting the word out and then see how it goes from there.
I would just say, there's no rush, right? Like, we don't have to spend this money. If no worthy applications come in, we can save it for when something comes in that
Absolutely true, Mark.
that really
Absolutely.
meets that criteria, so.
I think another effective way of getting news out is to be included in the group's newsletter. And most of the large groups do have monthly newsletters. And perhaps we just have a little press release or something that's easy, but again, compelling about CPC and how we want them to be involved, and get that into the club's newsletter for September or whenever.
I want to, I mean, a number of people, the effort that you all made to get this information out. I mean, one of my employees said, oh, that was posted in the lobby in my apartment building. So I had a number of people say, I heard I can't get there, but I'll watch it. So the effort even made tonight, I think, was a lot of people saw it, and I'm concerned that even in July, again, like, people just aren't going to come. But if I like the idea, Chris, that you said, if we can, the Rotary, the Women's Club, if we get to a group of the largest organizations in one or two of us, I'm happy to do that, or all of them, frankly, if they're meeting, and then combined with your point, Mark, that if it doesn't happen, right away, the money's going to be there. And I think, we can talk about the effort to really, again, get the word out in the community advocate for August, that, hey, we're starting to get, we have 2 months there, August and September, for pre-applications, and then they've got to get the real information in advance of October. So there's still some time to really get that word out, I believe, but let's make that effort.
I think I understand that of course, we don't want to just spend, the money without it being, meeting all of our criteria. But I do think if we can get some momentum in the awareness kind of early, we'll have an easier time, especially since projects take such a long time to plan. Giving people more time, even if they're not going to be able to apply for another year, I think would be helpful.
I agree.
And getting some of their questions answered, because then we're going to learn from that too as a
It'll be a
committee. This
learning
is our
process.
first rodeo.
It's a
so
learning process.
Before we get to town meeting, and then we have all these questions, like the questions might come in that we can
Yeah.
do some research and be able to get back to them.
I suspect no matter how well the job we do, or good a job we do, at the first town meeting, people are going to be the what? And that will get the word out.
Yeah,
At least to
exactly.
200 people.
We want some good drama, right?
Right. So then why do we schedule our next meeting for August 4th? First Monday in August for our,
And take away that we all start reaching out today to who we know, like, do
yes,
we?
and attempt to get to any of those clubs that are meeting between now and then. Certainly, I know you and I, and we'll ask any members who might be available, or a member of any of them, by the way, to let us know, and we'll make an effort. I think David can collect from any of us, could forward to David, any of those clubs that they think are, well, I think the list, Mark, that you mentioned will be a phenomenal place to start.
Yeah, I think I can track that down, and maybe we should have David coordinate that and let us know who's going to which, so that we don't duplicate efforts. And
Yep.
I'm not running into Chris at that'd be a good thing, Chris. So, but yeah, just so and maybe you could share that PowerPoint so we could have a ready-made, because I thought it was a good summation of, a great summation of the plan.
Well, and if we make something easy for our committee members, like, an elevator speech.
Yeah.
When they're talking about out in the community, not make an easy elevator speech to be able to share about it and then build on that. Makes it easy for us to share because there is so many guidelines and rules to it. Or that one page or so, even if we are out in the community or if we are presenting, whether it's this slide, these slides, or something easy that we can speak to and have some knowledge behind as committee members.
Jim, I'd be willing to write a draft of the one-pager with everybody's input.
Great. I would also comment, and to your point, Judith, there's no question that the best place for people to see examples of how this was used is on that coalition webpage. So we'll work on getting that communicated in a way that people really can find it accessible. It has everything that's ever been done so far over the last number of years. I mean, there's a lot of examples on there. And again, I've been looking, and they have a monthly newsletter that updates any more projects that are approved. It's just a really terrific way to see what's possible. So we'll work on how people can find their way to that easily, I think, than trying to recreate it. I think the link is on our website, correct? It's in the plan document that is also on the town website. Is that an active link that you can just click on? Yeah, so that's a hyperlink that you don't have to enter anything or copy and paste. You can go in and click on that. It'll take you right there. So hopefully that will be helpful. So let's indeed plan on our next meeting for August 4th at 5 p.m.
5 p.m.?
Yes, please. That's the plan. Any other business? Right, then I would ask for a motion to adjourn.
I'll move to adjourn.
Second on that?
Second.
All right, one more time. Colleen?
Yes.
All right, Margie, I'm just going first names this time. We know who you are. Margie?
Yes.
Chris?
Yes.
Julia?
Yes.
Christina?
Yes.
Mark?
Yes.
I'm going to go with Daniel, hopefully a yes, but that's
Okay,
okay.
he's good.
And yes for me. Thank you so much, everybody. Appreciate your time.